Hello, this is Adam Dewhirst, and this is the third in our series of head modelling tutorials for stylized characters. I'm going to start by opening up the scene we saved out last time. What we have now is a very basic head shape complete. We're going to look to start adding some detail in this lesson, hopefully the eyelid, and potentially be ready to start the ear in the next lesson. First thing I'm going to do is go to the side view, and when we finished last time we basically pulled the head down and connected up the neck. In the process we've kind of lost a little bit of the concept, so I'm just going to take some vertices from the side view and try and line them back up with our original design. Maybe put softmods on just to ease some of this back in. And you can increase the influence of your soft modification by holding down the B button and dragging the left mouse key. So we're really just going to fit this head back to its original design. Okay, it's looking a little better. Let's look at it in the 3D view. Okay, great. Now something that's happened here is because of this little point here, sometimes when you smooth it does look a little bumpy in places. A good way to check whether your model is getting the right amount of shape is to go to the hypershade and to make a blend and apply that to your model rather than the Lamberts. And if we turn that to soft edges, we can see right where the light is hitting it, so you get a much better idea of the shape. And in this case actually that's not quite as bad as I thought, but what I might do is go to the sculpt geometry tool and just put that onto smooth and just knock this back just a little. Okay, let's try that. Oh, I may have made it worse, I don't know. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. Alright, what I'm going to try and start on is the eye. Let's put a Lambert back on this for now. And we're going to start looking at the eye. What we have here is a basic eye socket. What we're going to want to do is sculpt a lid in here. So first thing I'm going to do is go to Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop, and you'll notice that if we hold on the left mouse key we can slide this up and down. I'm just going to put this slightly outside of the eye loop that we already have on the inside edge. Hit B to turn softmod back off, and this edge here is going to become the basis of our eyelid. So we're going to take these three verts on the inside and just move them down and out to make the beginning of an eyelid. Equally, the ones on the bottom side will become the bottom lid. So we'll move them out and up a little bit, not quite as much as the top one. It might also just scale them in a little, perhaps, as if they were about to close. Remember, if we look at our concept, our character is squinting quite a bit. So that is the beginning of our eyelid. Let's hit 3 and see. So we can see a little bit of shape there. We're now going to add another loop on top of that, and this is going to start giving us some rounded shape. Move it forward, maybe scale it up a little, and that's as if it was sitting around an eyeball. Let's hit 3 again. That's looking better already. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an eyeball. Well, more accurately, I'm going to create something that's going to act as a reference for our eyeball. So I'm going to go create NURBS primitives sphere. Now the latest few versions of Maya have this annoying interactive thing where you have to draw on the grid. I find it quite annoying, so if you go to create and either polygon or NURBS primitive in the bottom of the list, you can see it says interactive creation tick. Untick that, and then if you do NURBS primitives sphere, it'll just pop in the middle of the world, which is, I find, easier and just a lot simpler and less time consuming. Now I'm going to rotate this forward 90 degrees next, and we're just going to position this up. We can look in the front view, and I'm basically going to position this where our eyeball should be. So let's scale that down a bit, go to the perspective view, just pop that in roughly where I want it. Maybe that's a bit big. I think that looks almost right, probably about there. So what I'm going to do now is reshape my eyelid so it actually sits around this eyeball. Now I know this is a stylized character and doesn't necessarily have all the traits of a real human, but I still think he should mimic the real proportions of an eyeball, especially if we later decide to rig this character. It's going to need to have a spherical eyeball, so I'm going to just reshape some of these points. And if you recall the first lesson, we did crudely shape the eye, but not quite to the point where it would definitely sit around an eyeball. And this can be rough, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. If we hit smooth, you can see the eyes sitting in there nicely, and we've pretty much done our job. So that's great, so we've reshaped the eye. Now, during this process what's happened is we've pushed the eye back, so one thing I'm going to make sure I do is take these points in the corner, because otherwise we'll have this socket type shape, like a skull, and less like an actual eye shape, I suppose. So I'm just going to move some of these points back. I'm also moving the cheekbone back because it's got a little bit extreme. That one might have come a bit far. So we're really just sort of relaxing it back into the rest of the mesh. Okay. Let's hit 3 again. It's looking a little better, a little less like it's forced in there. Now what I also want to do is, this is still pretty low poly. I'd like to create almost a little tear duct in the eye. So what I'm going to do is, let me take my eyeball first. We'll create another layer, create empty layer. Add selected objects, that way we can turn it on and off, and I'm just going to call this layer eyeball underscore lyr for layer. In fact, I probably should have added that naming convention to my camera too, so lyr layer. That way we can turn it on and off. So I'm going to turn the eyeball off for now, and I'm going to draw in an edge using the split polygon tool. I always forget the names of these tools. Okay, so I'm just going to start this one here. I'm looking to create a little indent on this side of the eye. Doesn't matter that it goes into the eye socket because currently that's empty. And don't worry the fact that I've created two triangles and two 5-sided shapes already. At the moment I'm just sort of plotting the space, and I will fix those momentarily. So let's just going to try and shape this a little. As if it did pull back for a tear duct. Okay, now if we hit 3 we'll have created that tear duct shape, but we've also created a bit of a pinch. I think, to be honest with you, the easiest way, because we've kept this so low poly, is just to add another loop out to the nose, which actually should help us because it's going to help us shape the bridge of the nose, which I think I've kind of left beforehand. That was pretty low poly, so it doesn't matter. And I can come back in here and now delete those two edges that I added earlier. I wasn't quite sure I was going to put them. As I said, this is a character that I haven't done before, so we're sort of learning as we go. Turning the brush down, I've gone to sculpt geometry. I'm just going to smooth some of these points out just a little. Oh, a little bit too much there. Okay, and side view. And now, of course, what we'll get with these extra edges is a much nicer, slightly sharper runoff from the nose, which I feel fits a lot better with our concept. Now I'm doing this on soft edge mode. I'd rather do it on hard edge. I feel you should sculpt or plot certainly your topology on hard edge, because really that it should be correct in that mode. I mean, smoothing is a viewport thing, if you ask me. Okay, and let's just make sure the rest of the head is correctly shaped as well. Some of these points look like they've come in a little. Okay, and we'll hit 3, and yeah, so we've got a little pinch where the tear duct would be. That's great, that's exactly what I was after, although it might be wise to move some of these out as well, perhaps. What I don't want to do is look like the eyeball is just sort of like slinking around the eye socket is sort of slinking around the eyeball. I want actually some kind of hint of eye shape, but that's definitely looking a little better. Now, if you do want to have a very sort of pronounced eyelid, we could add another edge here. Let's see how that looks. I think personally that it won't work, but let's see. Oh, actually, that's not bad at all. Okay, we can leave that for now. What I might do though is pull it out of the edge, just so again it doesn't look like it's just sort of making this kind of socket. I want it to look like it flows out over the skin. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so we've got a very basic eye ball shape now. What I think I might also do is that the mouth obviously shouldn't be open, so I'm going to go to the side view now. In the hard edge mode, we've already shut it, and it's a little hard for us to pull those vertexes up, so I'm going to actually do this in soft edge. And just to remind you, it's hit 1 to go to hard edge, and 3 to go to soft edge mode. And I'm going to select all the bottom mouth, just move that up a bit, and I'm going to select the top side. I'm just meeting them halfway essentially, and move these down. I might just scale this back bit in a bit. Now let's have a look at that. That looks much more like our concept. Definitely much better. Really beginning to get a little bit of character here, which is nice. Now I keep noticing that there's kind of a extrusion out here. What's happened, I think, is that we've met the line of our concept, but we haven't taken into account the 3D shape. For example, the chin will come out a lot further than this part of our neck, so I'm actually going to hit the smooth tool and just push some of this in actually, because it's looking a little incorrect. And what I'm doing here is just clicking repeatedly so that I don't influence anything too much. I think that looks better in terms of shape. Might also pull back some of this jaw shape too. It's got a bit sharp. That might be something we fix in a later lesson actually, possibly by taking it into Mudbox. We'll see. See how far we get with the basic Maya tutorials. Okay, so that is the head looking a lot better. And remember that the hair is going to be a separate piece, so don't worry too much about the shape of the top of the head. Again, let's just smoothen some pieces here. Now let's reapply that blend. And you can see the light's hitting it, and that's looking much better. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, we're going to define the inside of the mouth, and this is going to should be quite easily. Now, if you double click on an edge, you normally get the loop that it's part of. If we double click on the mouth, what unfortunately happens is we get the whole half of the head, because we've been modelling this as a half a head. So I'm going to hold down Control and drag, which will unselect the other edges that I don't want. And I'm going to do that all the way down till I just have the inside of the mouth. That looks pretty much correct to me. Oh, except for these edges, of course. Okay, so I'm now going to extrude out again locally along that edge, and then I'm going to extrude back. And I'm also going to scale this in so it starts evening out a little. Let's do that again. Backwards, scale in a bit, and why not once more? Maybe we can begin to scale this down a little as well. Okay. Right, I'm now going to take this, I'm going to unselect the two corner ones, so I've just got the top and the bottom, or where I want the top and the bottom to be, and I'm going to extrude those in, and then push them back. Just scale it down now. All I want to do now is join everything up, so I'm going to take this vert, I'm going to hit the snap to point tool, and I'm going to snap these all together. And this won't merge them, you will have to merge these vertices. Oh. Now it looks like we've left reflection on in our vertices. You want to remember to turn that off. It may have influenced other areas we've worked on actually. So let's hope it hasn't done too much damage. Okay, so we've merged this all now. It will take time if we come in and just merge each of these individually. So what you can do is select a bunch roughly where your vertices that are unmerged are going to be, and go Edit Mesh Merge, go to the option box, and make sure the threshold is set very low. By default it is set to 0.001, so you can leave it at the default or hit reset. Nope, I was wrong there, it was only set to 0.01. Anyway, so we can select those, we hit merge, and it should merge all the points that are together. Now if we hit 3 we can see that has worked. And it's a little messy inside, so I might hit the Sculpt Polygon tool and just relax some of these inside bits. Really not necessary, to be honest, because not too necessary anyway, because we won't ever really see much of the inside of the mouth, but it's better to keep everything nice and neat. So just relax some of this, and we've got the inside of the mouth. Now later on we would hopefully fit that with a set of gums and some teeth in case our character ever opened his mouth. Let's go back to the front view, and we can see when doing that what we've done is some of our points have strayed over the middle of our geometry. So I'm going to select the last two, hit B for softmod. Let's just see how much influence that has. I'm going to turn that down quite a bit. I just really want them to affect the ones next to next to these ones here. So I'll just scale that in a little. Go back to the front view. What I'm looking to do is move this in without sort of squashing it up against the other points. Okay, it's looking a little better. Alright, what we'll do now is go to the front view, take all those vertices that should be along X, hit B to turn softmod off, and go up and put 0 in the X box. And that should be nicely lined up now to the middle of the world. Okay, back to the front view. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay, now let's delete the history on this, because we've done quite a few changes, and always delete the history before you duplicate. And we're going to duplicate this over to see how it's looking as a whole head. I haven't merged it yet. Now I'm thinking it's coming together quite nicely as a character. The eyes are looking a little far apart, and they do have quite a strong cheekbone that I think we're going to need to work on, but the mouth is good. I think the next area we want to affect is maybe add some detail along the nose. So I really want more of a nostril definition, so I think I'm going to, well, first thing I'm going to do is take these verts and move them down, because the nose doesn't naturally pivot up like that. Just going to shape this just a little, just manually, moving points myself, rather than using brushes or soft mods. And we're going to take this face, and I'm going to do what I decided not to do earlier, and I'm just going to extrude this and maybe shrink it a little. Okay, now this is just going to be a little extension to my nostril. It looks a bit extreme at the moment, but that's fine. I may be wrong in doing this. Again, we can correct it later if that's the case. This is, as I said, it's as new to me as it is to you, so okay, I'm just going to shape this a bit, and now I'm going to take the bottom faces, this one we just extruded and the one before, and I'm going to cut our nostril into that by hitting the extrude button and just pulling that in, and then doing the same thing once more, going up into the nose, and I don't want to go too far in. I'm going to shrink that down a bit, and I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to make sure I go into the head, because otherwise I'll start cutting through the mesh like this. So let's just pull that back, and again maybe just shrink it a little. Looks fine to me. Let's hit 3. There we go, there's the beginning of our nose. Looking pretty good. It might possibly be a little wide on the mesh, it depends on the design of our character. As I said, this is stylized, and if we look at our front view, now does that look a little wide? Yes it does. So what we're going to do is take one of these points, hit B, and scale that up. And let's start moving this whole nose in a little, because it's just a little wide. That looks a little better now. Already I feel that looks much more like the nose we're after. But I'm going to shape it a little. I think this edge as well, let's turn softmods off, is possibly a little wide, so let's shrink that down a bit. And accordingly let's shrink the next one as well, because I don't want the inside of the nose to be bigger than where it exits. That's looking much better. Okay, and again just moving some points there just to give it a bit of shape. It might be that we add a loop this way. I don't know if it's wise to add one going into the eye, but it might allow us a bit more shape around the nose. Let's just have a look. No, it may not be necessary. I'll tell you what we should do. Let's move the corner of this nostril out a little. I know we've just pulled the whole thing in, but now I just want to give it a bit of shape. And that's it, 3. Yeah. Bit by bit it's getting there. So we'll just shape little parts of it until I'm happy. Yeah, that'll certainly do for now. So we've now started, we've sort of finished off the mouth a little bit better, and we have added the eyeball, the eye socket I should say, the eyelash, and the inside of the mouth. And at this point you can spend some time, because we've got the basic head plotted, just sort of shaping little bits of the model here. I'm going to see if I can get a bit more of a lip. Again, this particular character doesn't really have a lip to speak of. He has lips, but they're not overly pronounced, so it's not too crucial that I shape that. Vertex. Just scale this in a bit. I want to make sure this mouth is actually closed. There we go. Okay, great. So I think we're at a point now where next lesson we can start on the ear, which we'll position there. That's looking pretty good. It's sticking to our concept. We'll go to the front view. Yeah. Again, maybe the jaw could come out a bit, but I'm pretty happy with it. So let's just, I think we should just leave it there. We'll go to save, file, save scene as, and we'll put in eye, because that's most we spent most of our time on today. And the next one we'll go straight onto adding the ear and hopefully, possibly the eyebrows. Okay, great.